Hi, it's Sally-Shakti, your visionary writing guide, and welcome to Tarot and Astrology for Visionary Writers from Monday the 21st to Sunday the 27th of August 2023. And I am here recording this on Wednesday the 23rd of August. And for regular watchers and listeners, you will know that I usually make these videos on a Monday. And you might also remember that the one other time this year that I didn't make the video on a Monday and put it out on the Wednesday was after I had been holding space at a festival that was very, very deeply transformative and needed some time to integrate after that festival. And the same has happened this week. So last week I was away at the intimacy gathering at Osho Lila, and I want to speak a little bit about that in context of what has been opening up and transforming for me since the recent Venus star point in Leo and the new moon in Leo. And then we'll move into speaking about today's energies with the Sun entering Virgo and Mercury going retrograde in Virgo, and where that points us towards going forwards. So Venus star point was when? Why can't I see it? And I've completely lost my bearings. Venus star point was on Sunday the 13th of August at 20 degrees of Leo. So for me, on Saturday the 12th, I participated in a ceremony at Stanton Drew Stone Circle, just outside of Bristol, here in Britain, on the British Isles. And that was with a circle of sisters and brothers who are in the star priests and priestesses circles that I am training with for my goddess-centered and land-based astrology that I work with, intuitive astrology that I work with. So we had our Venus ceremony on Saturday the 12th, and then on Sunday the 13th, there was the actual Venus star point, Venus conjunct the Sun at 20 degrees of Leo. You'll remember me talking about this in previous videos. And I don't know whether I mentioned in those previous videos, but 20 degrees of Leo is conjunct my North Node. So this was a really powerful Venus star point for me that was exactly conjunct my North Node, moving me more powerfully towards my destiny in this lifetime. And with that Venus star point, with the ceremony that I did at the Stone Circle on the Saturday, and then at the event that I was co-holding the following week on the Wednesday, the 16th, I was holding and co-holding a new moon ceremony for the new moon in Leo. So these really strong, potent energies around the week just gone for this really rising Leo energy. And the new moon was at 23 degrees of Leo. So pretty close to within a few degrees of the Venus star point. So we had Venus conjunct the Sun at 20 degrees of Leo on Sunday the 13th, and then the moon conjunct the Sun at 23 degrees of Leo on Wednesday the 16th. So really, for me, when I was holding and creating the new moon ceremony, I was also very aware that as the Sun was rising in Leo, it was rising also with the moon and with Venus, all more or less together as one, rising up through those few degrees, those 20 to 23 degrees of Leo together. So I began that ceremony at sunset on the Wednesday, So at sunset, as I was preparing for the dark moon and the new moon, with, as I say, the sun, the moon, and Venus all together or pretty closely together in the sky, setting together, we went into the ceremony in the evening with a focus on setting the intention for self-love, sensuality, pleasure, and playfulness. And that had been my intention for the whole of the gathering that I was part of holding, the intimacy gathering, and particularly for this energy of the new moon and the Venus star point in Leo, to really welcome in for myself and for those I was holding space for and co-creating with, self-love, sensuality, pleasure, and play. And then in the morning after the ceremony, as the sun, the moon, and Venus were rising again in the sign of Leo, I took the remains of our ceremony, the rose petals we'd used, the oils that we'd used, the beeswax candles that we'd used, and I placed them at the foot of the sacred oak tree on the land where we held the ceremony to complete that ceremony. So the ceremony itself lasted from, or began at sunset and was completed at sunrise, and held that energy of sun, moon, and Venus together in that constellation, and within those few degrees of 20 to 23 degrees of Leo, a really powerful and potent portal of energy and intention setting. And if you want to see, you can participate a little bit in the intention setting for that ceremony. I did a video interview on Facebook on the Sunday, on the Venus Star Point Day, that's available via the Osho Leela community. You can see that interview where I actually hold the candle with the rose petals and we set our intentions for that energy. So you can also be part of that ceremony by watching the video back. And for the whole of last week, I was involved with holding and co-creating a festival called the Intimacy Gathering at the community Osho Leela in the southwest of England. And without really even noticing until a few days in, I began to realize that I was embodying more than ever before in my life those qualities I'd been calling in with those ceremonies and intentions: self-love, sensuality, pleasure, and play, in a way that I had never really allowed myself to do so before, because I had a lot of work to do. I had a lot of work to do at the festival. I was always busy, and I took on more because I wanted to do the things that were becoming available to me, which were all incredible opportunities for my expansion and transformation. But it meant that I was very busy. And usually what I would do would be to spend my free time or my break times back in my room by myself, decompressing, reading, resting, sleeping, whatever I needed to do to try and reset my energy to get me back out ready for the day. And this festival, I approached it very differently. I also recognized that I had enough capacity to change my approach, and that the more I stepped into pleasure and play and self-love and sensuality, the more my capacity to hold space and to co-create expanded without the burnout and the stress that I would usually experience, and the severe need to decompress, because I would have need to withdraw my energy and bring myself back to center. I found that throughout the festival, I was able to hold my center much more calmly and groundedly and safely and securely than ever before, whilst also stepping into an ever expanded container for not only my own pleasure and playfulness, but my capacity to hold space and co-create. So I was able to take on more through the festival when opportunities arose, because those opportunities were incredible invitations into greater expansion and transformation. So I had the immense privilege to be able to work with some of the really best teachers in the world, and to not only be in workshops with them, but also to assist them and hold space with them in their workshops, which was in some ways very unexpected. I knew that I was going to be working with one particular teacher who is a friend of mine and who is absolutely outstanding at what she does, and I'm always so grateful to hold space with her. And there are a couple of other teachers there who I didn't expect to be working with so closely so soon, but the opportunities arose and I stepped into them, and as I did, my capacity expanded. And I think that that is also very, very much related to my ability and intention to be able to embody more pleasure and more playfulness, rather than being in the stress and the challenge and the difficulty and the need to withdraw, which has been my habitual pattern up to now. So instead of withdrawing and isolating in my break times, I would sometimes choose instead to go and relax in the cafe space, and then I would be able to connect with other people. I would be able to have perhaps some physical touch, some hugging, some holding, some conversation, some creativity, just small gentle opportunities that were nourishing rather than depleting, and that were really supportive for me to hold and expand the capacity of my nervous system to move into more of myself and embody more of who I am. And with that North Node Venus star point conjunction, to really begin to embody more of who I am and who I'm becoming. I had incredible opportunities, one of which was to step into the role of temple priestess for an evening. And really that is part of what I see as my destiny with my North Node in Leo, in my second house in this lifetime. I was also really grateful for the opportunity to take a sauna every evening. It's so essential to me when I'm in a festival space, especially when I'm holding space and co-creating space, to use the sauna to cleanse my energy field and reset my energy before going to sleep, so that I can wake up refreshed, not holding the energy of the day, not holding anybody else's energy or any residual energy, really letting that move through and out of my body before sleeping, so that I can wake refreshed. And then my next routine was to go to the yoga classes every morning, to again set myself up for the day. And of course, I continued my commitment to journaling every day, every morning and every evening, throughout the process. And sometimes, in fact, most days throughout that event, I really only had the energy or the capacity to scribble a few lines. I literally at times could barely move my pen across the page. So I would go with what capacity I had. I wasn't trying to force myself to write a particular length of pages or words or whatever, but just to put my pen to the page and write what I could, as I could, every day, every evening, every morning, to keep me connected to my writing practice and to my commitment to writing and to journaling. And even when sometimes when I'm in the deepest transformational processes, I often write the least, because what is moving through me is not yet ready to be formulated into words, and it will come later. But it's really important for me still to get something down on the page, so that that energy has its opportunity to show up and become manifest in the physical world, so that I can anchor it into my embodied experience in whichever ways it most wants to be seen in those moments. And it may show up only as a few words or a few phrases, and that's enough just to anchor it into my experience, and know then that it will be working with me on a deep internal level for as long as it will be, for as long as it needs to be. So that's a little reflection from me on the week just gone since the Venus star point and the Leo new moon, which have been incredibly powerful in their invitation for me specifically, and I hope for you too. I'm always curious to hear about how these energies are showing up for you in your life and in your visionary writing and creative practice. So here we are today with the sun entering the sign of Virgo and Mercury going retrograde also in the sign of Virgo. And I feel as well that Mercury here is in a little dance with the sun and the moon in Virgo over the next few weeks. So as the sun moves into Virgo, Mercury, who's already been traveling through Virgo, now begins its journey back to retrograde. Mercury is going to retrograde from 21 degrees of Virgo back to, I think, 7 or 8. I did check it just now. Back to 7 or 8 degrees of, yeah, 8 degrees of Virgo. So it's staying in Virgo and it's doing this kind of swing. It's already gone through those degrees once. Now it's stopped at 21 degrees and it's going to go all the way back to 8 degrees. And then when it gets to 8 degrees on the 15th of September, it's going to begin its journey forward again, direct, and it will pass through 21 degrees and keep going. Why I think it's interesting that Mercury is doing a little dance with the sun and the moon. Like I said, as the sun has entered into Virgo, Mercury begins its retrograde journey. Mercury ends its retrograde journey and goes direct again on the day of the new moon in Virgo. That's Friday the 15th here in the British Isles. It's Friday the 15th of September, and that might be at different times because it's going to be at 2:40 in the morning. So it will be perhaps on a slightly different day where you are. But here it's happening on Friday the 15th of September. And I think it's significant that the new moon in Virgo will occur at 21 degrees. So we will have both the sun and the moon at 21 degrees of Virgo together in the sky at exactly the same time as Mercury completes its retrograde, which it began at 21 degrees. Mercury's back in, will be back here at 8 degrees, and then we'll begin to move forward again towards 21 degrees. So take a look at your chart. If you're familiar with your chart, find out where those degree points, 21 degrees back to 8 degrees of Virgo, sit in your chart, and particularly take notice of this 21 degrees of Virgo energy because it's being activated several times. We've got Mercury right there now today at 21 degrees, beginning its journey backwards all the way to 8 degrees. And as the sun and the moon both travel forwards through Virgo, they will meet together at 21 degrees, just as Mercury begins its journey back forward towards that 21 degree point again, and it will pass through that 21 degree point again. Let's see if I can see when that's going to happen. That will be around the 29th of September. So by the 29th of September, that 21 degrees of Virgo point will have been activated 3 times by Mercury and once by the conjunction of the sun and the moon at the new moon on the 15th. So that's a key degree point to watch, or a key energy for your intention setting and your clarity, because what happens with Mercury retrograde and what happens with that Virgo energy, well, Virgo is the sign of the priestess, the temple priestess. Virgo is known as the Virgin, but what does Virgin mean? Virgin means sovereign woman. Virgin means woman who stands by her own sovereignty, autonomy, authority, creativity, self-contained, the self-contained one. And so as we move from the vibrant self-expressive sovereignty of Leo's fiery energy, again, every fire sign is always followed by the earth sign. So what ignites in us in that fire energy has the invitation and the opportunity to ground and grow through the earth sign energy. But we also get, with the earth sign energies, we get containment and discernment. So whereas Leo has given us this ignition into our own self-expression, the self-expression of our creative sovereignty or our sovereign creativity, Virgo invites us into the containment, the self-containment of one who is self-contained in their own sovereignty. And that asks us to discern which of those fiery energies are we going to be carrying forward with us into and through the earth sign of Virgo, which creative expressions that we've ignited now actually have the stamina and the longevity to grow with us through the earth energy of Virgo. And any aspects of that fiery creativity that are really just a flash and not to be carried forward will fall away, because Virgo wants us to come into the discernment of our own self-containment and to very much discern what are the seeds that we harvest and that we replant for next year's growth, and what can be discarded. When we think seasonally here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're now moving through late summer into autumn. We're moving through the harvest season. What are the fruits of the harvest that we will keep, and what are those that we will discard? Virgo asks us to be the harvester, the reaper. Not quite the reaper, which perhaps we get to at Samhain. Virgo at least asks us to be to bring that discernment into our harvest, and what we will keep and what we will continue to co-create. Virgo wants us to ground our creative spark into our soul sovereignty and into our creative autonomy as self-contained and boundaried. She has quite a cool energy as opposed to Leo's fiery sovereignty. Virgo's sovereignty is cool and self-contained. How can we make that transition ourselves as we move through the energy from Leo into Virgo to become more inward, more introspective, to embody more of the feminine energies that are an aspect of our soul sovereignty and our embodied sovereignty that we perhaps neglect because we've been taught that our sovereignty is about being very much outward and external and masculine and fiery. What are the inward, more feminine, sovereign qualities that we can cultivate through Virgo season? Virgo asks us, requires us, and demands us to look at the details and to discern through the information that's available to us what we will move forward with and what is practical for the long term. And Mercury retrograde also invites similar qualities. Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. I think that's something that at least I often forget. I associate Virgo quite closely with the archetype of Venus, and I forget that it's actually Mercury who is the ruler of Virgo. And Mercury in this aspect, in in its rulership of Virgo and in its connection with Virgo, exactly invites us into these qualities, especially Mercury at retrograde, invites us into these qualities of checking the details, looking at the facts, closely examining the communication, the travel plans, we all know a lot of those common aspects of Mercury retrograde, travel plans, keys, communications. Mercury invites us to look at the details closely and to revisit where we may have missed some important information. And so as visionary writers and creatives, I often feel that Mercury retrograde invites us into a more introspective relationship with our creative process, the more natural tendency to be in the process of editing, redrafting, revising, checking the facts, checking the details, checking the structure, checking the rhythms, the flows, doing that editing work that is not the same energy as the outwardly fiery, creative composition and production, the creation, which is a lot more fiery, it's a lot more outward, it's a lot more external. When we're in that process of making and we're putting words onto the page and we're putting our souls out into manifest form, into the world, through the elements, through what we're creating, and we're bringing new form into reality through our ideas and through our creations. Both the energies of Mercury retrograde and the energy of Virgo, which is now heightened because Mercury is retrograde in Virgo, invite us into a more cool, feminine, introspective relationship with our creative process and have more of an organic relationship with editing, revising, revisiting, correcting, checking, considering. And for myself, that's actually where I'm at with my creative process. I've just completed, in that very much Leo energy, working through the Leo energy, working with the Leo energy. I got my words down, I got it out onto the page. I've written the first draft of a book that I'm calling the Visionary Writer's Mini Guide. And I've invited first readings and feedback from my readers. And it so happens that now I am moving into the redrafting phase, the care and consideration phase. And that is exactly aligning with this time of Mercury retrograde. Now, that's not to say that I'm not also planning to start my next writing project. My intention is to complete the Visionary Writer's Mini Guide by the end of August and to begin with a mini writing retreat for myself in the first couple of weeks of September to start writing the Visionary Writer's Guide, the full-length book. That's my intention, that's my plan. And it doesn't mean that will go to plan necessarily, but I think I want to say it doesn't mean that we can't start a new project just because Mercury is retrograde. It doesn't mean that we have to only edit and revise and redraft. I feel like, and I don't know how it's going to play out, but I do feel like whilst Mercury is still retrograde in those first 2 weeks of September, whilst I have an invitation to go away somewhere and stay in a place where I can take a mini writing retreat for a couple of weeks, there's a quietness and a stillness in that energy that perhaps will support me to write in a way that is more thoughtful, more considered, more diligent. And that really is the foundation that a full-length book like that will need. So it's not to say that we can't start a new project, but perhaps we'll start a new project with a slightly different energy than we would start a new project in Leo season. It certainly feels like that for me. So I guess that's really all I want to say in this video today. If you have been here watching this with me, and if you're still here, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time, your energy, and your attention. I appreciate everyone who subscribes, likes, and comments, and maybe even shares this with your friends. I have plans to develop and evolve this format over time in the future, but as it currently is, I enjoy doing this every week, and I really, really enjoy your presence here with me. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful for your love and your connection, and all of the stories and the feedback that you share about your own visionary writing and creative journeys too. You can always find me on Facebook and Instagram at Writing Thriving, and I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you there. Sending you lots of love, and I'll let you know as soon as the Visionary Writers mini guide is ready to download. Lots of love. Bye for now.